to see the most popular stations and podcasts among TuneIn listeners right now. Check it out. You might just discover something new for yourself.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
ESPN Radio and TuneIn just go hand in hand. Hi, this is Mel Kiper Jr. reminding you that all of your favorite ESPN Radio shows and events are right here on TuneIn. Just search ESPN Radio to begin enjoying it today.
Here's a swing and a drive deep to right field. Looking up. Goodbye, baseball.
Between game-winning shots and walk-off homers, follow TuneIn on social media to discover the latest and greatest in live sports.
With the 24th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft.
From live reminders that the biggest MLB games are on the air to recommendations of the best new sports talk shows and podcasts.
He's going to be fine. He's going to be good right away in 3 years.
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Next time you look up at the stars, think about this.
Inside you are the remains of a stellar explosion. You are made of stardust. And without the stars, there wouldn't be us.
I'm Guy Raj, the wonders of the universe and the people who still look up every night. Next time on the TED Radio Hour from NPR. You can subscribe to the TED Radio Hour on TuneIn.
Are you interested in a challenging and exciting career? One where you can be part of solving complex challenges across industries and geographies? Bloomberg's ever-expanding technology, data, news, and media services foster innovation, empower clients, and offer nearly limitless opportunities for career growth. Visit Bloomberg.com/careers today to view our current job opportunities. Bloomberg LP is an equal opportunity employer. The address once again is Bloomberg.com/careers.
Elite advisory firms rely on BNY Mellon's Pershing to meet the needs of their most complex clients. Karen Novak, Chief Operating Officer at Pershing Advisor Solutions, explains how.
At BNY Mellon's Pershing, we bring customized insights and strategies to help you grow your advisory business and stay on the leading edge. We can support the needs of your most sophisticated clients with a full range of investment and wealth management solutions, from access to private banking to consolidated bank and brokerage custody. Learn why so many of the largest advisory firms turn to us for the financial strength and high-touch service that BNY Mellon's Pershing can provide. Are you well positioned to stand out from your competition?
Learn more at Pershing.com or call 800-445-44. Brokerage custody provided by Pershing LLC and other services provided by Pershing Advisor Solutions LLC. Both members of FINRA and SIPC. Private banking and bank custody provided by BNY Mellon NA. Member FDIC.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. We've got the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all advancing, looking at a record on the S&P led by energy and financial companies. Treasuries tumbled as trade optimism fueled demand for risk assets. The 10-year down 30 seconds now with a yield of 1.78%. S&P at a record at 3,080, up 13, a gain of 0.4%. The Dow also climbing to a high at 27,450, up by 0.4%, up 1.3. NASDAQ up 50, that's a gain of 0.6%. NASDAQ now at 84.36. Gold is down 0.3%, 15.09 the ounce, and West Texas Intermediate crude oil down 1.9%, 57.27 a barrel. Recapping stocks higher. S&P up 13, a gain of 0.4%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Bloomberg Opinion, informed perspectives, and expert data-driven commentary on breaking news.
It's time now for Bloomberg Opinion, and we welcome today columnist Jonathan Bernstein, who has a column out saying another shutdown question mark. It really might happen. Jonathan, thank you for joining us. I feel like it's deja vu all over again.
Oh, it sure is.
So what could lead us to this? Because many of us thought once they raised the debt ceiling into next year sometime, we're past this problem.
Well, the debt ceiling is sort of a separate thing. What government needs to do every year is pass spending bills, and they're supposed to do it by the beginning of the fiscal year, which was back at the end of September, beginning of October. And what Congress did instead was kick the ball down the road a little bit so that now they have to do something by November 21st, or else government shuts down again.
Well, before we get to what they could do November 21st, what about those individual appropriations bills? As I understand, there are several of them. Hasn't the House passed several of the ones that are necessary?
The House has passed some. The Senate actually just acted on their very first ones, but they haven't reconciled them yet. And the problem is that there are a few that are relatively non-controversial, but it's hard for neither party wants to make a deal until they made a deal on everything. So they do have, in the deal they made over the summer, the overall totals are agreed to, but the specifics, and there's a lot of specifics in the appropriations bills, those are not agreed to, in particular, the president's border wall.
Well, I was going to say, boiling it down, is a lot of it about the wall as a practical matter?
Well, the thing is that a shutdown only happens if somebody really wants it to happen. It doesn't appear that Republicans in Congress or Democrats in Congress want one to happen. It's possible that Donald Trump wants another shutdown, and if so, then yeah, it's basically about the wall.
Why would President Trump want another shutdown? I mean, going back through history, doesn't the party seen as responsible for the shutdown almost always lose?
Absolutely. There's no reason, there's no good reason. The incentives in the system are all screaming, don't have a shutdown now. And it's very easy to do. If they can't cut a deal, they can always kick the can farther down the road. All they have to do is pass a one-page extension and say, well, we can't make a decision by November 21st. We'll make one by some in Congress are suggesting we'll move it to February.
Well, that sounds very easy, but from the president's point of view, does he feel like he gives up some leverage on that wall if he goes ahead and kicks the can down the road again?
The problem for the president is he doesn't have the votes. And so he doesn't have leverage. He may think that he can manufacture leverage by holding his breath and threatening that he'll pass out. In other words, by doing a government shutdown. But we've already seen earlier this year, it doesn't work.
But what does this mean for Republicans on the Hill? I mean, the president, I would be mildly surprised if he lost the presidency over a shutdown. But historically, it's had more effect in the House and even perhaps the Senate.
Well, the thing about public opinion is that people forget about this stuff really quickly. So, on the last shutdown, the president's approval ratings really tanked badly, 7 or 8 points, I think. But by the time, once it ended, it came right back up. That probably would happen now. What's dangerous for Republicans in Congress is that right now, campaigns are already underway for next November, and especially in the House, politicians are making their final decisions about whether to run or not. And they make those decisions in part based on what they think the overall partisan environment is. So a shutdown now could bring in more strong Democratic candidates who are on the fence about whether to run or not.
And we already have several Republicans serving in the House announcing their retirement, even before we get to a shutdown.
Exactly. And so that could also push some more, on the one hand, because they may think they're going to get defeated. On the other hand, because they're sick of it. Republicans on the Hill don't enjoy this. They don't enjoy, between another possible shutdown, between impeachment and everything else. All the reporting says that a lot of Republicans just are sick of dealing with this stuff, and that may cost some more retirements, which in turn make the seats more vulnerable.
So we talked with, as you know, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi on Friday, and she mentioned this in passing, but suggested that she didn't think the appropriations thing in the end would be a big problem. Who is it within the White House, or is it the president himself who could be behind this? What does Mick Mulvaney think?
You know, Mulvaney, it's hard to tell. He's never really accepted the whole idea of, from what reporters say at least, of a deal which brings spending in line to what Democrats want, a compromise deal. And of course now we have Democrats with the majority in the House, so they have a lot more leverage than they did last year when Republicans still had the majority. But I think it really basically comes down to the president. If he doesn't want this to happen, it's very easy for it not to happen.
Does the deficit play into this at all? Is anyone on either side of the aisle, either on Capitol Hill or down at the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue, is anyone concerned about the deficit and the enormous borrowing that the U.S. government's doing right now?
I don't think so. But the truth is that whatever concerns they have, that goes into the stuff that they've already made the deal over, the big overall numbers. This is really just about details within the overall spending allocations.
How many legislative days do we have left? Not that many between now and November 21. I mean,
not that many, but again, this can happen if it's going to be pushing the can down the road, kicking the can down the road a little bit, it can happen very, very quickly. So you never get a shutdown because they run out of time for negotiations. You only get one if somebody wants a shutdown.
Is there a sense of urgency?
You know, I think I'm an outsider on that perspective. I'd have to, defer to people who are on the Hill doing the reporting.
But it can have real economic effects if it lingers too long.
Absolutely, and that's another reason, directly everybody's going to forget about it. But indirectly, everything that hurts the economy a little bit hurts the president. And, of course, there's always the possibility of a tipping point that pushes the economy into a recession. And, Trump's been risking that with the trade war. He's been risking it with the previous shutdown. It hasn't happened, so perhaps he'd get away with it. But, it's a risk that an incumbent president probably shouldn't be taking at this point.
Okay, many thanks to Bloomberg Opinion's Jonathan Bernstein. And you can read more on this and other Bloomberg Opinion pieces by going to the Bloomberg at bloomberg.com/opinion or go to your terminal and type in OPIN GO. President Trump has said he wants out of the Paris Climate Agreement, and today is the first day he can do something about it. We talked with Professor Michael Gerard of Columbia. That's coming up next on Bloomberg Balance Opinion, and we are on Bloomberg Radio.
This is a Bloomberg Market Minute. U.S. stocks are climbing on a report that U.S. and China are closing in on a partial trade deal. Energy and financial companies are today's leading gainers. The Dow is up 103 points to 27,451. S&P up 0.4%. The Nasdaq climbing 0.5%. Shares of McDonald's and Under Armour are under pressure today. McDonald's CEO Steve Easterbrook has been fired over a consensual relationship with an employee. And Under Armour disclosed that 2 federal agencies are looking into its accounting practices. Apple will contribute $2.5 billion toward easing the housing crisis in California. Facebook and Google each pledged $1 billion to fight skyrocketing housing costs in the San Francisco Bay Area. Donna Wilson, Bloomberg Radio.
3, 2, 1. Oh no. Which button am I?
When every second counts, you can't wing it.
Guys, a little help up here?
In a home fire, you may have less than 2 minutes to get out. So make a family home fire escape plan. Then practice home fire drills at least twice a year so everyone knows what to do when they hear. Prepare your family at ready.gov/fire drill. Brought to you by FEMA, the Ad Council, and Make Safe Happen.
Bloomberg is excited to convene the Year Ahead Summit on November 7th in New York City. Speakers include Facebook COO Sheryl Sandberg, award-winning actor, producer, and businesswoman Sarah Jessica Parker, TPG co-CEO Jim Coulter, and CVS Health CEO Larry Merlo. Supporting sponsors, Pfizer, Workday, Hennessy Paradise Imperial. Participating sponsor, Invesco QQQ. Learn more at BloombergLive.com/TYA. Register with code RADIO.
In-depth.
It's another Monday evening. Yet another cold day. So ditch the British winter and chase the sun across the globe with British Airways from London Gatwick to enjoy a warm Bayesian welcome.
How are you doing? Enjoying the sunshine? Fly from London Gatwick to Barbados with British Airways, with flights and 7 nights hotel from just £699 per person. Don't miss out. Book by November the 12th at ba.com/wintersun. With British Airways, incredible is within reach. Booking fees and conditions may apply. Limited availability. Selected flights in March.
This is someone making an online booking at Ford.co.uk using the words Ford20 so they can service their Ford for £20 less. And this is someone who didn't get their Ford serviced. You see, at Ford, we use Ford genuine parts and Ford trained technicians. Plus, if you quote Ford20 when you book with us online, you can receive £20 off. Book now at Ford.co.uk or visit your local participating dealer. Ford service. No one knows your Ford better.
Retail customers only. At participating Ford dealers. Cannot be used with other promotions. T's and C's apply. Search Ford service for more information.
Whether you're waiting for a train or a takeaway, with Tesco Mobile you don't have to wait for a brilliant deal. Our best ever Black Friday event is on. This week you can get a Samsung Galaxy A50 for just $17.49 a month. That's our lowest ever price. Get yours by the 10th of November. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Best ever Black Friday based on range of products in promotion was £18.99, now £17.49. 36-month credit agreement, rolling monthly usage agreement, subject to status, phase policy applies. See tescomobile.com/terms.
Hey, it's me again, the TV. Since my family gave me Now TV, there's no more endlessly searching for something they want to watch, because now I don't do filler TV, just killer TV. If my family want football, how about the Premier League? Dramas, OMG, I've got Chernobyl. Or how about comedy? Coming up, way better than the dad jokes in this house. Now they can watch whatever they're in the mood for.
What's your TV got for you tonight? Now TV. 18 plus, month passes auto renew, terms apply.
Will cancer affect my sex life?
Your sex drive can disappear. The side effects may stop you.
Your sex life can easily stay.
When you search one question about cancer, you end up with millions of results which contradict each other. Clear and uncomplicated information, come to Cancer Research UK. Visit us online or give us a call on 0808 800 40 40. Cancer Research UK. Together, we will beat cancer.
From the Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio in New York, Bloomberg 1130. To Washington, D.C., Bloomberg 99.1. To Boston, Bloomberg 106.1. To San Francisco, Bloomberg 960. To the country, Sirius XM Channel 119. And around the globe, the Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Balance of Power with David Weston.
Coming up on Balance of Power, President Trump is likely to give formal notice the U.S. is withdrawing from the Paris Climate Agreement today. We're joined by my colleague June Grasso to talk about the legal consequences of that action. But first, let's get a market check with Charlie Pellet.
And we are looking at records, David Weston. The Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ all advancing right now. S&P up 14 at 3,080. That is a gain of 0.5%. The Dow up 114, up 0.4. NASDAQ rallying 52. That is a gain of 0.6%. 10-year down 20, 30 seconds yield right now 1.78%. Stocks advancing to records led by energy and financial companies. Treasuries tumbled as trade optimism fueled demand for risk assets. Erin Brown is portfolio manager at PIMCO.
I think for right now, all sides want some type of trade truce. I think the question really is what does that actually mean? We think it's going to be a loose truce where they're going to have some, tit for tat with the U.S. giving some tariff, at least not escalation. So really pausing the tariffs here, and then China buying some agricultural and energy purchases.
Another top departure at McDonald's. The restaurant chain, which just announced the departure of its star chief executive officer, is also losing its top human resources manager as it navigates pressure from politicians and activists. According to an internal memo sent out today, David Fairhurst, who carried the title of global chief people officer, left the company. McDonald's shares down now by 2.8%. Under Armour shares plunging after the company disclosed federal officials have been probing its accounting practices for more than 2 years. Under Armour down now by 16%. Crude oil, West Texas Intermediate rallying 1.8%, 57.23 a barrel, and gold down 0.4%, 15.08 the ounce. So again, recapping, U.S. stocks trading at records, S&P up 0.5%, higher by 13 to a record 3,080. I'm Charlie Pelleton. That, David Weston, is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Thank you so much to Charlie Pellet. Well, President Trump has promised to pull the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord, but he's had to wait until today to give formal notice. Welcome now my colleague June Grasso and Michael Gerard, law professor and director of the Sabin Center for Climate Change at Columbia, will be joining us shortly. So June, I didn't actually follow this. I thought that we already were out of it.
So did I.
It turns out by the terms of the treaty, anybody who wants out has to give 3 years notice, and then when they formally give notice, there's another year.
So if they give notice in the next few days, that will put the time when it actually takes effect the day after the election in November. And then if there's a different president, perhaps, they can then move to re-enter the climate agreement. And one wonders, what effect this is going to have anyway, because what you have is President Trump has been, through regulatory deregulation, has been rolling back the Obama legacy of the environmental legacy that Obama left since almost the first day he got into office. So what will this really mean?
No question. At the same time, I didn't realize some U.S. officials have been participating in some of the talks under the Paris. So I assume that they would get pulled back. But as you say, it's not like Brexit. They don't need to have all the countries agree to let people back in. As I understand it, somebody could turn on a dime here.
Yeah, and also it's a different kind of pact than what we're used to. It's not one where you have to do A, B, C, and D, or you're out, or you violate the terms of the pact. It's made so that different countries can reach their own kind of climate initiatives. Basically, it's really a loose framework.
It is a loose framework. At the same time, there are a number of state, local organizations, and actually private corporations that seem in the United States to be stepping into the breach a bit.
Yeah, that's what's been happening. Take the example of California, how much it's done in the past and how much it's doing. And the Trump administration, of course, is trying to take back the waiver that California has about gas emissions. So that state has done a lot, but also New York and other states have tried to step into the void, so to speak, of, the Paris Climate Agreement. But again, it really seems to matter more what happens at the top, what the Trump administration is doing through the EPA in this country. And, there have been articles on Bloomberg about the various kinds of rollbacks that a lot of them are still in the courts, by the way.
So let's bring in now Professor Michael Gerard from Columbia. Professor, June has just been asking the very good question, what difference does it make whether, in fact, they give this notice or not?
Well, everybody knew on Election Day that this was going to happen. The most important thing is what the government is actually doing on climate change. That's far more important than what the U.S. says it's doing under the Paris Agreement, since the Paris Agreement was essentially non-binding anyway.
So what is the government doing at this point on the question of climate change? Because obviously there have been a lot of announcements about various things, but then I see also maybe they're backing off some of the pullback.
Well, for the most part, the government has stopped doing anything affirmative and is rolling back many of the things that had been done under the prior administration. They are going back and forth on some of the issues, but for the most part, they're moving backwards. They're doing that with respect to the use of fossil fuel to generate electricity. They're doing it with respect to oil and gas and coal drilling, and they're doing it for motor vehicles. They're going backwards.
So, Professor, how many of those attempts by the EPA and the Trump administration to roll back Obama-era regulations are still caught up in the courts?
Actually, most of them are caught up in the courts. The Trump administration has done a very poor job of following the necessary procedures, and so they've been consistently stopped in the court. They've been frequently stopped in the courts from doing the actions that from canceling the regulations, but they have succeeded in just halting any work going forward.
So David and I were talking a little bit about how some of the states are trying to step into the void. Which states have been aggressive about it?
Well, I would say the two most aggressive states traditionally have been California and now New York, with a brand new law, is stepping up to the plate. We're also seeing Massachusetts and Washington and several other states moving forward aggressively.
To what extent, Professor, are the markets stepping in? I mean, Murray Energy just declared bankruptcy, a coal producer. And interestingly, in their filing, as I understand, they didn't say it was because of regulation. They says natural gas is just too cheap. They just can't compete.
Yeah, that's right. It's mostly the abundance of natural gas due to hydraulic fracturing and the declining price of natural gas that has posed the most trouble for the coal industry. So the coal industry is phasing out, but not nearly as quickly as it needs to in order to meet our climate goals. The market is also working in another respect in that renewable energy is becoming a whole lot cheaper. It's cheaper to build wind and solar, and therefore we're seeing a lot more of it than we did a few years ago.
We know that in California, the automakers actually were on the side of more regulation by California. Are there other companies and businesses that are actually on the side of more regulation than the Trump administration is?
Well, on the automakers, there were 4 big automakers that decided they wanted more regulation, but then last week 4 others said they didn't. So the auto industry is split on that. Certainly the renewable energy industry is moving forward quickly. A lot of the tech companies and many other companies are entering into private agreements